Hello everyone and welcome to day 11 of the 30-day film challenge, and today we are going to be talking about Creed because I'm supposed to pick my favorite movie from my least favorite genre. And I wouldn't necessarily say that sports movies are my least favorite genre. I think I've seen the least amount of them. I'm not a sports guy. I don't watch sports really at all. Like I'll join the Super Bowl party and I'll watch the Super Bowl, and it's always entertaining. It's fun. The commercials are always great, and the trailers you get from the Super Bowl are always awesome. I've never actually watched a boxing match or anything from the MMA or really many things at all when it comes to any other sports besides maybe going to some baseball games when I was a kid on the 4th of July to see the fireworks. But that's really my extent of sports. So I guess sports movies are my least favorite genre, but I love some sports movies, including this one. This movie is excellent. This is one of the best movies that just really pump you up, and it's extremely emotional, which I was not expecting when I first watched this movie, because I didn't watch this movie in theaters, unfortunately. I hadn't seen any of the Rocky movies before this, so I did watch Rocky 2, Rocky Balboa. I skipped 3, 4, and 5, and then I watched Creed for the first time. And the first Rocky I really like. I think it's a really good movie. I think if I were to watch it again, like some of the other movies that I've had in this 30-day film challenge, like The Matrix, for instance. Like, I wasn't the biggest fan of The Matrix, but then I watched it again recently, and I loved it. I feel like if I were to watch the first Rocky again, I'd probably love it. But for right now, I think it's a really good movie. And same thing with Rocky 2. I think the first half of that movie really just is something else. I don't know. I don't really like the first half of that movie, but the ending of Rocky 2 is awesome. I think it's so much better than the first Rocky even, and I love that fight and everything in it. And Rocky Balboa is extremely underrated. It's probably my favorite of the Rocky movies that I've seen. Yes, I know I'm not the biggest Rocky fan, so I loved Rocky Balboa, but Creed and Creed 2, by far, by a long mile, are the best movies in this franchise. And I'm here to talk about the first Creed, but I will be talking about both. So spoilers for especially the first one. I might get into a little bit of the second one, but if you have not seen either of them, watch these movies. Even if you haven't seen the Rocky movies, you don't necessarily need to watch them, but I would recommend watching at least the first Rocky, maybe Rocky 2. If you're going to watch Creed 2, might as well watch Rocky 4 if you want to. I don't think it's necessary because I haven't seen it yet. And then definitely watch Rocky Balboa because I think that's a really good movie. But seriously, guys, watch the first 2 Creed movies. They are great. So why do I love these movies so much more than the original ones? Well, I think it's because of Michael B. Jordan, his performance, and especially the performance from Sylvester Stallone in this iteration of his character, because he's gotten to a point where, he's older, and in this movie he has cancer, which is heartbreaking. And it's the idea that Rocky's training Adonis to fight, right? And he's only going to fight if Rocky fights this illness as well. And that main storyline, I guess it's not necessarily the main storyline, it kind of appears about an hour and 10 minutes into the movie when he finally gets diagnosed with cancer. So it's kind of a later movie thing towards like maybe the middle of the second act where you're introduced to this storyline. But that is the emotion and the heart of this movie. The relationship between those two, along with Tessa Thompson's character. I think all 3 performances from all those actors are excellent, and I just think it works so perfectly together. And this movie almost brings me to tears every time I watch it, because the ending is just so emotional when it's the fights and things are really ramping up, and especially when that one news guy asks Adonis what he would say to his father, which that is another great thing about this movie, is it's all about family. And this movie does it better than every single other of the Rocky movies, including Creed 2. This movie is great when it comes to that. And Michael B. Jordan really is great in this movie. He really encapsulates everything that Apollo Creed was and everything that Rocky Balboa is still. And he's kind of a combination of the two, which the movie's really trying to hammer in. And I think my biggest issue of the movie, although it does say some great things, is the announcer for the last fights. I think at one point he says, he's punching low like Rocky, but he's punching high like Apollo, and that's true. That's very true. You can see the 2 fighting styles kind of mixed together, and you don't necessarily need to say it. And it does add a few things to a couple other things out loud that just is unnecessary, but I mean, the emotion is still there. You still get that impact, despite the filmmakers not necessarily trusting us enough to really get that from the movie itself. But that doesn't take away from the fact that it really does hit. If the movie says that out loud and you don't really feel it, then it's kind of a problem. But because you feel it and you see it and you also hear it, it really does impact you. And I think the relationship between Rocky and Adonis in this movie, this sort of father-son relationship that they gain, or I guess uncle and nephew relationship, is so perfect. And I think that when he first moves in with Rocky and they start training, that is where the movie is just excellent. From that point to the end, the movie is pretty much perfect. Even before then, this movie's almost perfect. That's what I'm trying to say. I have very small issues with it. But that relationship and that family aspect, and then how Tessa Thompson comes into this, and he's starting to form his own family, which you will see in Creed 2, that I think is even better in Creed 2. It's all set up for something that's so great, because I think these two movies work perfectly together. Because you look at Creed 2, and there's some things that movie does a lot better than this one. I think it's the Tessa Thompson relationship. I think it's really good in this movie. It is incredible in the second movie. And when he has his son, or I think it's his son, and the kid has the hearing problems that Tessa Thompson has. And it's heartbreaking. And him just trying to learn how to be a father that's very different. And that's something that Creed 2 does excellently. But the relationship with Rocky and the stuff that they give Rocky in this movie with his cancer is so much better than any of the other Rocky movies in general. Because that emotion behind him and how much you care about this character and how you see him really fighting when he's going up the steps at the end of the movie, it is perfect. And I love everything about that scene. And that's the part that really gets me to tear, because it's emotionally heartbreaking. He gets up there and he looks out in the distance and says, if you look closely, you can see your future. I think Ryan Coogler being the director of this movie really elevates it higher than all the other movies, including Creed 2, because this movie, even the score for this movie, everything about this movie feels like it takes the formula of the Rocky movies that just is tried and true. It works so well. You can't really beat that formula. It's kind of just the perfect formula for this type of sports movie. But then you have that formula, and you put Ryan Coogler as the director, and you put this cast together, and you put the composer, Ludwig Göransson, who's just incredible in everything he does, and I think this is my favorite score of his. But he takes everything that was done in the first Rocky movie and everything on all the other Rocky movies, and he adds an extra punch to it. Even the score has an extra punch to it. The performances have an extra punch to it. The fights have an extra punch to it. You really feel every punch. And the way that it's directed, you feel like you're in the ring with Adonis and with whoever he's fighting. That one take scene where he's fighting his first professional match, and it's all done in a oneer, and it's incredible. Like, I'm sure you've heard everybody gush about this oneer before, but it really is awesome. And when he's going out to fight the main villain, I guess, of this movie, and it's all that one take walking out onto the ring, it's perfect. It's so well directed, because you really feel like you're on this path with him, and you really are rooting for him. And besides that announcer, I think the villain of this movie is weaker. I wish they got more, I guess, development with him, because I know he's probably going to go to jail, and there's one line where it says, we need to get a roof over your kids' heads. That's all his trainer cares about. And I think there's some interesting stuff there. I just wish we got more of it. But when it comes to Creed 2, that is what Creed 2 does so much better than this movie, and that is the villains. You have Ivan Drago coming back in the second one with his son, and you have that relationship and that rivalry that really formed from Rocky 4, where he's the one who killed Apollo Creed in the first place. And yes, that is so much better than this movie, but what this movie does better than any of the other Rocky movies is having Adonis Creed's character arc, being him wanting to make it on his own and kind of rejecting the fact that he was a Creed. But by the end of the movie, he not only accepts the fact that he's a Creed, but he's proud of it, and he embraces it. And it's crushing, because yes, he was born out of an affair, but that doesn't matter. He wasn't a mistake. And when he says that at the end of the movie, it's so powerful. And this movie is extremely powerful. It pumps you up. It is an invigorating movie. It's extremely well directed. The performances are excellent across the board. This is easily the best Sylvester Stallone has ever been. And of course, Michael B. Jordan giving out yet another incredible performance. Tessa Thompson, Ryan Coogler as the director. Everything about this movie worked so well, and that is why it's by far my favorite sports movie. Even though I'm not the biggest fan of sports, this movie is really everything that I wish real sports would give me. So that is my review for Creed a few years later, and a little bit of Creed 2. I love both these movies. I might watch Creed 2 later tonight, I'm not sure. But I will be excited to continue this 30-day film challenge tomorrow with my least favorite movie from my favorite genre. And that's going to be horror, of course. I love horror, it's my favorite genre. But I hate Drag Me to Hell. And maybe if I watch it again, maybe I'll like it this time around. But I'm not sure about that, so subscribe to the channel, guys. Leave a like, comment below what you thought of Creed, and what's your favorite movie from your least favorite genre. And stick around for tomorrow's video. It's going to be a lot of fun. So thanks, guys, for watching, and I hope to see you all in the next one.